Welcome to Combat Zone 360, where we discuss everything military. Today on our show, we have Daniel Perez from The Mission Continues. Thank you for joining me, Daniel.
Thank you for having me, Jay.
Yes. Now, what I like to do with all my veterans that come on this show, because we want to get our veteran stories out there, we're going to talk a little bit about where you came from and how you grew up. All
Okay.
right? So if you could start off by letting us know where you came from, that'd be amazing.
Sure. So I was born in the Bronx, and I was there till I was about 5 or 6 years old. And then my father got a job with state corrections, and we moved out to way out in western New York near Chautauqua Lake, about an hour and a half south of Buffalo. Nobody knows where it is. So, and I was there till I was about 18 years old. So I grew up in a very small town. Okay. I knew everybody where I grew up. Everybody knew me. It was a small school. And, you know, military service was not that uncommon. I think I was the only one actually from my school who enlisted when I did. But I came in, I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school.
Okay. Now, during your time in high school, did you play any sports or were you part of any clubs or anything?
I wasn't part of too many clubs that I remember. I did play sports. I was a soccer player. I did want to do football, but it was soccer or football. I was kind of a runner, and I had a lot of energy. So that's why soccer worked out for me. And then obviously that worked well with the Marines too.
No, I was a runner in high school too. I don't know what happened to me now.
Yeah, exactly.
But back then I was good.
This is what happened to me. But.
Exactly. Good food. Mm-hmm. Now, with you running and playing sports in high school, what influenced you really to join the military?
So that's an interesting question because I've heard it a ton of times in my life, and I'm always like, what did kind of bring me into this? Because it's complicated, a lot of things. But part of it was wanted to get out of the house, wanted to see the world. Part of it was I really wanted the challenge, and a big part of it too is I wanted to do what everybody else wasn't doing. Like a lot of people were after high school were getting jobs and going to college, and I kind of just didn't see myself going that route. A lot of people that were doing these things, I felt like they didn't know why they were doing them. There was just the next step. And I wanted what I was going to do with my life to kind of mean something. And, when you're 18, you don't know what that is. But the military had that. I felt like they knew what they were doing. They had a sense of purpose is really what it ultimately came down to. I didn't know that was it then. But they had a sense of purpose on, what they were doing. People in the military, They got up in the morning, they said, I'm going to do this, and the world's going to be at least a little better place. And I wanted that. I wanted that sense of purpose, really.
And when throughout your high school career or as a child did you know that this is what you wanted?
So that's another interesting question. Ultimately, like in the back of my head, I probably kind of always knew. I always, even as a little kid, I had an interest in, just playing guns or war, and even in the military. I always liked the idea of the stoic warrior sort of stuff, as a kid. And, as I started to go through the process, I was a little gun shy. My parents were not, they weren't blowing up, but there was pushback. They weren't on board. So there was like, oh, no, go to college, all that stuff. But ultimately, the more I looked at it, they're like, this is something I want to try because, like I said, it's different. I'll get to see the world, and I'll get to challenge myself, do something that nobody else does.
With your parents feeling that way, I look at that as a negative influence of you joining the military. Did you have any other negative influencers, or did you have any positive influencers?
To join the military?
Yep.
I don't know that I'd see it as negative. Yeah, maybe, but they were scared. That I feel like that's reasonable. So negative, positive influencers. No, I kind of had to. There wasn't a lot there. I feel like when I came in, I was mostly discouraged, because they're like, nah, just go to school. It's better, easier. Better life, all that stuff. There was definitely this idea that why would you join the Marines?
Yeah.
But it's what I wanted to do, so I just said, to heck with it, and signed up.
Yeah. And why the Marines over any other branch?
Because I was looking for a challenge, and because I did talk to some of the other branches, and they would tell me, hey, join the Navy, join the Army, etc. We'll give you this, we'll do this for you, we can do this for you. The Marines very much were like, do you really want to do this? Because it's, are you sure this is what's gonna happen to you, and you may not like it. And one of their selling points for me was that they almost weren't trying to sell me. They're like, listen, are you sure you want to do this?
They threw that reverse psychology.
Yeah,
on you.
and it worked. It worked. I was like, why aren't you guys trying to?
Yeah.
And, they were the Marines. I wanted something tough. I definitely was looking for a challenge.
Yeah.
They said, all right, well, we'll give you that for sure. And so.
And throughout my recruiting career, I've dealt with a lot of Marine recruiters. I have a lot of Marine recruiters that are friends, and they always tell me, we don't sell jobs in the Marines. We sell the Marines.
Yeah, amen.
You join the Marines to be a Marine, no matter what job you get. And I've always respected that.
Yeah.
That's a great aspect and outlook to have on the recruiting process.
No, and that's nail on the head. That's what they did. Everybody else was selling me on jobs and benefits, and they're like, you get to be a Marine. And they got me.
Exactly. And while you were in the Marines, what was your job?
So I was an 0351 assaultman, which is in the infantry. I was the small gunner. Anti-tank weapons and explosives is what I tell everybody. So when I first joined the Marines, went through basic, then got sent to a unit. I was with 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines, Easy Company. I was a SMAW gunner, which is, most people don't know what a SMAW is.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've heard of a SAW, but never a SMAW.
And even then, I think a SMAW is kind of getting phased out. So basically, it's a modern bazooka.
Okay.
So I was the bazooka guy. So that's the bulk of my training for the first 2 years. And then on top of that, you deal with a lot of anti-tank weapons, a lot of explosives, I always used to say we were basically like half combat engineer, half infantry. Where we dealt, with booby traps, although we didn't really do much of it, blowing up enemy fortifications, things like that.
Nice. And you talked about how you had a break in service.
Yes. So
how did that happen? How did that come about?
Yeah, sure. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps in September 12th, 2000.
Okay.
I did my 4 years. Like most Marines after 4 years, especially in the infantry, you are fed up after 4 years.
Of course.
And I'd had my fill. And
it only took me 3 in the Army.
And I thought about re-enlisting, but where I was at the moment was not where I wanted to be. So actually, to go through that story, I was with my unit up until about right before our second deployment to Iraq. And because I was short, there was a paperwork malfunction, and that they're like, oh, listen, you can't go. So I ended up getting sent to Haiti, and then when I came back from Haiti, they're like, hey, do you want to re-enlist? And I was like, I don't know any of these people. So I wasn't really that motivated to stay in. So I got out, and I was out for about a year and a half, a little less, and I went to Brooklyn College during that time. But while I was out, and this speaks to why I ended up with the Mission Continues, transition was very rough, and you don't really know who to talk to. You don't connect with anybody. I was 22 then, and I felt like a 55-year-old man going to college. Wow. Just did not connect with anybody, and so it was hard. And I would hear stories about some of the guys I knew that were still in and stuff, and they went to Iraq that second time, and that second time in Iraq was a rough go, so people got hurt, and you'd hear about it, and, you're like, what am I doing here?
You feel a little guilty.
Yeah, guilty for sure. Guilty.
I felt the same way, yeah.
You feel a little guilty, you feel a little just like, I need to be there. So I signed back up in 2006, and I said, listen, send me in, coach, put me where the action is. Which they were more than happy to do in 2006. And so I signed up again. I got put with actually Anti-Terrorism Battalion then, which had just kind of been made a thing in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And so Anti-Terrorism Battalion for about 2 years. I was on a PSD team for generals in Iraq in 2007, basically. Then I came back. Anti-Terrorism Battalion disbanded. Got put in a bunch of other places, and long story short, I ended up at 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines. So then I did a pump with them over to Afghanistan. Then I came back from that, and I said, at some point, because I had 8 years in, it was, pull the trigger and stay in for life, because the next enlistment I'm going to be at 12 years, and then you might as well stay for 20.
Exactly.
Or, get out and see what else there is to do with the world. And I went with option B.
Yeah, and I told myself when I got out, I was out for 1.5 years as well. And when I came back in, I told myself and I told my wife, if I go back in, I'm in for the long haul.
Yep.
I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to do my 20 years, and then we'll make decisions then.
Yeah.
Did 21, retired, and,
Yeah.
don't regret a day of it.
And you know what? Some days I think to myself, maybe I should have stayed in, but I don't know. I'm good with the decision I made.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to live with.
Yeah.
So with you being out of the Marines now, I know you have to pay the bills.
Yes.
What have you been doing since you've been out of the Marine Corps?
So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went right into college, because I always remembered a fun, well, not really funny story, but again, sometimes about transition. Guys get out and they party real hard, like the first 6 months to a year they get out and they spend all their money, and then after a while they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember seeing a lot of that my first enlistment. So when I would get out, I was like, got to at least do something. So I went straight into college, because that is something I wanted to complete. I really wanted to, get a degree.
Yeah.
So I went to college, got my degree. I studied chemistry, and I started to get into the engineer field, energy field, and specifically engineering. And so I had some engineering jobs, sales engineering jobs for a while, and just been sort of working in that field. That's what pays my bills.
So to get on the story about The Mission Continues.
Okay.
I honestly have never heard of The Mission Continues.
Right.
And my wife actually turned me on to you guys.
Okay.
She worked with the 8th Medical Brigade here in Staten Island. And she said, hit me up on the phone while she was at work and said, hey, Jay, I ran into this program that I think would be amazing for you to interview.
Yeah,
So I'm like, okay, well, awesome. Send me their information. She sent me your information.
Okay.
I, looked a little bit into it and contacted you, and here you are today. If you could talk a little bit about how the Mission Continue came about.
Okay, I'm happy to.
Yes.
So the Mission Continues started, I want to, maybe 2007.
Okay.
And it
Fairly
was
new.
It's 2007. Yeah. It's not I feel like as a lot of the veterans organizations have been coming up over it's one of the newer-ish ones, but it's not particularly old. We just hit 10 years not that long ago. Yeah. So it started as a program that got veterans, as they were transitioning out and having that trouble transitioning and looking for a sense of purpose, to reinvigorate that purpose into nonprofits that were helping the communities in their area. So the Mission Continues used to partner veterans with nonprofits that needed help or manpower.
Okay.
They would provide them a stipend while they worked for these nonprofits. So the nonprofit got essentially the free labor. Mission Continues paid the veteran, and then Mission Continues coached that veteran on working in that nonprofit space and readjustment and things like that, leadership skills, stuff like that. So that program was very successful. And one of the things we noticed was that a lot of these veterans wanted to continue doing it after they had done their 6 or 8 month work with the nonprofit they had been with. Yeah. So then we started a new program. I want to say 2013. Don't hold me to that. I'm not sure. 2013, 2014. I think we started the platoon program, where a veteran leader in that area would get veterans from that area together and basically do the same idea that we had with the fellowships to help that community. So I am the platoon leader for the Manhattan chapter of the Mission Continues. And I find nonprofits in the area that need help, and basically I bring veteran manpower there, and we help them solve problems. So we bring the skills that we have, we bring the leadership we have, the collaborative skills that we have to help that nonprofit fix the problems in that community that they're trying to fix. We're not trying to recreate the wheel. I see a lot of analogies with it in like our military service going into other countries, where we go up to someone, whoever's the boss, say, hey, my name's so-and-so, I'm here to help, what do you need?
Yeah.
They tell us what we need, we tell them how we can provide that help, and then we knock it out.
Nice. Now, how many people do you have in your platoon here?
In the platoon in Manhattan myself, I think I have somewhere in the area of 400 plus.
That's amazing.
Yes, we
That's
do.
a lot of veterans.
Yes,
that
we do.
definitely help out in the community still.
Yeah.
You know, so veterans love to give back.
Yes, that's absolutely it. That's something we've noticed. One of the, like talking about what I was earlier, one of the issues getting out is sort of that loss of purpose that we see in a lot of veterans. They get out, they kind of don't know what to do with what that next step is. And the Mission Continues sort of says, hey, listen, you've shown your willingness to help, to serve. Let's take that energy and put it into helping your community. And we've had amazing success with it.
So what are some of the projects that you guys have done in Manhattan?
Sure. So we, I guess the major nonprofit that we work with is a group called Harlem Grown.
Okay.
Harlem Grown is very new, but has been exploding in Harlem. And it was started 4 years ago, 5 years. I can only guess. I'm not really sure, but it's new. And the gentleman there named Tony, who had volunteered in a school across the street from him, noticed that the kids, didn't know anything about healthy living or sustainability.
Yeah.
So he got the empty lot across the street from that school and started fixing up into a garden and teaching the kids about, healthy eating, responsibility, sustainability inside the city. And it's been a prospering idea ever since. He's been getting a lot of good traction with that. And we partnered with him about 3 years ago and been trying to help him move that along.
Okay.
So we build a lot of the infrastructure that he has to teach the kids about urban gardening and healthy eating, healthy living. We help fix the infrastructure that he has already that's been kind of broken. We just recently built them a custom chicken coop so that they can a very big structure that we're pretty proud of, that he can use not only to raise chickens that will create sustainable food for the community, which the food does go to the community, but he also is used to teach children about farming, healthy living, healthy eating, sustainability, and that's something we're very proud of. That was probably the biggest nonprofit we've worked with.
Okay. And how long has the Manhattan chapter been around?
So the Manhattan chapter has been around. That's also a fun question. There was I want to say I've been the Manhattan chapter leader for a little over 3 years now. Okay. So it's been around for a little over 3 years. Before that, there was an empty space. And then before that, there was a veteran who's now back in the Army. She's an officer named Yassine, who was the leader of the Manhattan platoon for about a year. So between her starting and now, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 years, but it really kind of went into a lull and disappeared. And then when I picked it up, that's when we started moving again.
So the Mission Continue is continuously growing throughout the United States.
Amen. It is a national nonprofit.
Yes.
We do work in, I want to say, 70 or 80 cities across the country, and we're trying to expand further. The idea is that there are veterans out there who have skills and the willpower and the desire to help their communities.
Definitely.
Why not utilize that?
Definitely. And if people wanted to reach out to the Mission Continues, either to get help or to join as a veteran, how would they do that?
So we have a website. It's missioncontinues.org. You go on that page. They will send you to, at some point you'll see, do you want to join a platoon? You find the nearest city or area that has a platoon and you look it up. Here in New York, we have 4 platoons. We have the Manhattan platoon. There's one in the Bronx. There's a new platoon that just started in Queens, and we have one in Brooklyn. We're still trying to get one in Staten Island going, but still working on that.
There's a lot of veterans here.
There are a lot of veterans there. There's a lot of
right
veterans.
Here in Staten Island. So they, I'm sure as if you guys can find a leader here to do that, I'm sure it'll grow.
I'm 100% with you. The leadership, finding someone to take charge of it is a bit of a challenge because I can tell you personally, it's a heavy time commitment.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. I love doing this volunteer work because not only does it give me my help me with my sense of purpose, but I get to deal with veterans. I get to deal with we get to solve problems. We get to fix things. We get to help. We just get to move the needle in a lot of communities that really need it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So what got you involved as taking that leadership role with the Mission Continues?
Okay. I wanted to give back. I've seen some other veteran service organizations in the city that have been doing good things. And in 2004, when I got out, there was none of these organizations today when I first got out. And I felt it. And I felt that sense of isolation. And I knew there was other veterans out there, but I didn't know how to get in touch with them or anything like that. And when I got out the second time in 2010, there was actually another organization called Team Red, White, and Blue that a friend of mine who I'd served with in Afghanistan started up a chapter in Long Island. So he called me up, said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm starting up this new chapter of a thing called Red, White, and Blue. Come help." So I said, "Sure, of course. I got you, buddy." So we went out there. It was a small event because he had just started. But I started to get involved with Team Red, White, and Blue. And as I started to get involved, I wanted to be more involved. And Team Red, White, and Blue is a phenomenal organization. It creates a lot of connections between veterans, but I wanted to do more. So I wanted to help more in the communities and stuff like that. I ended up finding the Mission Continues and started volunteering with them, and it's been good ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you end up finding the Mission Continues?
Google.
Google? So
I
just Googled veteran organizations?
That's an excellent question. I don't know. I think
it fell on your lap.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember.
Wow.
I don't have an answer for that. I don't remember how I found them.
Man.
I don't think I just Googled them, but.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
On an average, how many hours a week or how many hours a month does a veteran put in with the Mission Continues?
It varies. In the summertime and the springtime, it can be a lot. So let's say for the month of May, for example, which was probably a heavy month, the chicken coop that we built took 3 weeks, 3 consecutive projects to make. It was about 5 to 6 hours a day, so that was 18 hours. And then on top of that, we had a social event, which ran about 4 hours, so give or take 20.
Okay.
So,
and how do the volunteers juggle working volunteer work with the Mission Control and their work?
However they can. I mean, usually, so because a lot of our volunteers are either in school or working, most of the volunteer events are not during the work week.
Regular work week.
Yeah. So we'll have social events maybe during the regular work week. So everybody get off from work, meet here, and the Mission Continues will pay for some food and we all just hang out.
Networking.
Socialize, networking, exactly.
Keeping veterans in touch with veterans.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But
Very
the actual
important.
service projects are almost always done on the weekends because that's when people have free time. So they'll come on out to the project, and then we'll usually have tasks already figured out and maybe even instructions on those tasks most of the time. So I'll come, if you were to come out, I'd say, "Hey Jay, how you doing? We're going to build this garden bed or this chicken coop, or we're going to fix this wall here. This is what they want. This is the equipment to do it. Get to work." And that's usually all we need because they're veterans. Half the time I have to slow them down. Like, no, you're going too fast or too much, guys. So.
Okay. No, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
I like that, the veterans have that sense of purpose, and
Absolutely.
it's something that's really needed. I know I'm newly retired, and, I struggle all the time on trying to, get through my daily tasks that I need to do, and it's luckily for me, I live over by Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, so I'm able to surround myself with a lot of veterans on that post, or a lot of people that are still in the military, have it be the reserves or active duty on that post. So I have that sense of, brotherly and sisterly love around me, being in that environment
100%.
But a lot of people don't have that.
No, you're absolutely right. And even even if you're a veteran, I know you need some sort of access to get on the base. So
exactly.
it's how we do it when we don't necessarily have that readily available.
Yeah.
And it's been phenomenal because, like I said, despite the fact that it can be a lot of work sometimes, but it is outstanding people I get to deal with, get to work with great nonprofits that are moving the needle in the community. And it's a lot of fun. I like doing it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Do you have any upcoming events going on?
Sure. So we have 2 upcoming events. One is happening in Queens. I don't know the exact location off the top of my head. And the next one is in Brooklyn. I don't know that one either. I know they're there. Those platoon leaders have all those details. The next project I am working on in Manhattan, we are trying to work with. So the mayor had identified some problem areas inside the city where crime and let's just say not great behavior was going on.
Yeah.
And he identified it in some areas in the city, and he came up with a plan to fix those areas. And it's a multi-pronged plan, but part of it is just revitalizing the neighborhood and making it, fixing up the broken things, making things good again.
Yeah.
So one of those was Wagner Houses in Manhattan, and we're currently working with those people to try and to come up with a good plan to figure out how we can fix their garden space and make it something that people can come to, that it's a community space that people feel safe in, and that they can enjoy. So we're working on that now. It's still in the works. Have more maybe by the end of the week.
Perfect. No, that'll be great. Now, do you guys have a area where if the community wanted to follow you guys, the Manhattan chapter,
yes,
do they have somewhere where they can go to see what your upcoming events are or anything like that, or even pictures of things that have happened?
Sure, they do. We have a specific Manhattan platoon page.
Okay.
It's if you Google "The Mission Continues Manhattan," it'll be the first one that pops up.
Perfect.
We also have a Facebook page that anyone's welcome to join if there's anyone on Facebook. It is a New York City, all of New York City page, but there's plenty of Manhattan projects in there. I promise. I keep myself busy.
So if you had a young man out in the community come up to you and say, "Daniel, I need your advice.
Okay.
I'm thinking about joining the military." What advice would you give him?
All right. I'd ask him why. I mean, that's why are you trying to do it? Because it's a commitment, that's for sure. I think it's something that you have to be ready to commit to, and I guess it would have to depend on his answer from there. Like if he's just like, "Oh, I'm just looking for a job," I'm like, "All right, well, maybe
this
not
might
the
not
best
be for you."
Yeah, this might not be the greatest thing for you, but it really depends on what they're trying to do with their life, and if they're willing to commit to something like the military.
Yeah. I tell them all the time, it's a commitment. You're going to be sleeping in the rain.
Yeah.
You're going to be out there in the blazing heat. You're not going to get any sleep. Are you ready for that? Can you handle it?
Well, and it's just, are you ready for, there's a lot of stressors. There's a lot of, there's a lot of time away from home almost always.
Definitely.
There's a lot that you really have to say, I'm going to do this. You have to be committed to it. And if they gave me that impression, then I would recommend it highly. I'm glad I joined the military. I couldn't imagine not joining.
Definitely. Well, Daniel, I would love to thank you for coming on here and educating me about the Mission Continues.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully I can find some time in my busy schedule to get out and actually do some volunteer work with you guys.
We'll get you.
Perfect.
I promise.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming out. All right. And thank you for tuning in. And until next time, make sure you thank a veteran.